Hi, it's Cory, and today you're going to learn how to play Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So this song was actually my December Patreon Song of the Month. That means this song was voted on by my Patreon community as the song they most wanted to see made into a tutorial for this month. My Patreon community is amazing. I appreciate you guys so much. They allow me to be able to continue to make these tutorials for you. And in addition, they get access to a bunch of different resources such as my lead sheets and other things to help them be the best ukulele player they can be. I'd like to just take a second to give a shout out in particular to my gold tier members who are very generous with financially helping me to continue to make these tutorials. So that is Rosemary Bristol, Glenn Clement, Perry Payne, Yuki, Stefan Ramirez, Nadia Rogers, Bradley Carter, Charlotte Ramiro, Alexander Olin, Matthew Newton, and Andrew Atbury, in addition to my other gold tier members that prefer to stay anonymous as well. If you're at all interested in getting access to any of my lead sheets or teaching resources, or you just like to have another way to support the channel, or you'd like to be able to participate in song voting, make sure to check out my Patreon, and I will have the link to it down in the description box. But with that, let's get into the tutorial. As always, the first thing you always want to make sure is that your ukulele is in tune. That's going to be a G on the 4th string, a C on the 3rd string, an E on the 2nd string, and an A on the 1st string. Once your ukulele is in tune, let's take a look at some of the chords. The first chord we're going to be looking at is going to be the A7 chord. For this, you're just taking your first finger and then placing it on the 3rd string, 1st fret. Next, we have the A minor chord. For that, it's going to be your 2nd finger placed on the 2nd fret, 4th string. We also use an A minor 7 chord too, but what's great about that one is you don't have to do anything with your left hand. It's just the open strings of the ukulele. This chord is also known as C6 too, just in case you are more familiar with that enharmonic spelling. The next chord we're looking at is going to be the B7 chord. This has the same shape as an E minor, if you know what that is, but if not, I'll be teaching you in a second. But what you do first is take your first finger, you're going to place it on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. Your 2nd finger is going on the 3rd fret, 3rd string, and then your 3rd finger is going on the 4th fret, 4th string. We then also have a B minor chord. For the B minor, it is a barred chord, so you're taking your first finger, you're going to bar all the way across fret 2. So you're going to take that finger and press down. You're then going to take your 2nd finger and then lay it on top just to add a little bit of extra support for the chord. You're then taking your 3rd finger and placing it on the 4th fret, 4th string. Next, we have the C major 7 chord. This one's very similar to the C major chord if you know that chord. However, the difference is it's your 2nd finger on the 2nd fret, 1st string, rather than your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret, 1st string. So 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 1st string for C major 7. We're also using a D7, but we're going to use the easy D7, or what's sometimes called as the Hawaiian D7 too. So you're taking your first finger and then placing it on the 2nd fret, 4th string, then your 2nd finger is going on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. We also have an E7 in this song. E7 is going to be your first finger placed on the 1st fret, 4th string. Your 2nd finger is going on the 2nd fret, 3rd string, and then your 3rd finger is going on the 2nd fret, 1st string. Next, we have that E minor chord. So that same shape as the B7, everything's just moved over a string. So your first finger is starting on the 2nd fret, 1st string, your 2nd finger is on the 3rd fret, 2nd string, and then your 3rd finger is on the 4th fret, 3rd string. We then have the G major chord, which I think a lot of times people think is very difficult, but honestly, in comparison to the other chords we've been working on, G major is not a big deal at all. So you're taking your first finger, placing it on the 2nd fret, 3rd string, your 2nd finger is on the 2nd fret, 1st string, and then your 3rd finger is going on the 3rd fret, 2nd string. Next, we have the G major 7, and this one's also a barred chord, but it's easier than the B minor chord. You're just going to take your first finger and then place it over strings 1, 2, and 3 on the 2nd fret. You do not need to place it on the 4th string, and then you can strum. You can also play this if you're not as comfortable with barring. You can also play this with your first, second, and third fingers placed on those strings too. So that works sometimes for certain songs depending on where you're transitioning to. However, playing with the first finger barred is the easiest for this song. And then finally, chord number 12, we have a G7 chord, and that one's starting on the first finger placed on the first fret, second string. Your second finger is going on the third string, second fret, and then your third finger is on the first string, second fret. So the first thing you're going to do with this song is get familiar enough with those chords that you don't have to look directly at the chord charts in order to play them. It's okay if you need a glance on occasion as a reminder, but you should not have to look directly at the chord for every single transition. So for strumming patterns / picking patterns for this song, we're going to be using the most basic strumming pattern and a really, really basic picking pattern. But when used together, it makes it seem like there's a lot more complicated things going on. To start, the strumming pattern we're going to be using is only going to be taking place in two parts of this song. It's going to be taking place during the bridge section and then at the very end of verse 2. So for that strumming part, you're just strumming on a down strum on the beat. If that's too tricky for you, just drop the strumming on the beat and just plan the chord changes. That way it gets you lots of time to transition. We're also just going to have that same strumming pattern played on the second half of verse 2 when we have the "So have yourself a merry little Christmas," and we have that sort of turnaround at the very, very end. You're just going to be playing on the beat as well. So you'll have, "So have yourself a merry little Christmas," and you play that throughout until you get back to the outro, which you will start playing the picking pattern again. Speaking of that picking pattern, let me show you how to do it. This one is the easy of the easiest for picking pattern. We don't use the fourth string at all for this song when picking. We're only going to be picking on strings 3, 2, and 1. What I recommend doing is assigning a finger per string. So your thumb is going to be going on the third string, your first finger is going to go on the second string, and your your second finger is going to be going on the first string. So the little pattern is a da da da, ba ba ba, ba ba ba. 1, 2, 3. You'll feel kind of with a waltz feel, and you're just going to pick 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Get that really internalized so that you don't have to think too hard about what you're doing with your right hand as you're making all those different chord shapes. And you're giving a little bit of extra weight to the 1, so it's not 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So extra weight on the one of those counts. So you're giving extra weight to the third string. And I'm not saying picking harder. I'm not going 1, 2, 3. Not picking harder, just giving more emphasis to it, which is hard to do when you're first starting out. But if that seems a little bit too much, just worry about picking each of the strings evenly for now. The very beginning opening would sound like this. And you'd repeat. When you're doing the picking pattern, you mostly are going to be picking the 3, 2, 1 pattern, and then you're going to change chords. So that's not an always thing, but it's a most of the time thing. If that ends up being too tricky for you, just play on the chord changes until you're familiar enough with the chords that you can pretty much do the chords automatically and then start to implement the picking pattern. So that would be... So the way that these are going to transition into each other is going to be at the "Next year all our troubles will be miles away." What you're going to do is you'll pick on the E minor to the G, to the G7, and then strum, strum, and go into that bridge section where you're strumming on the down strum. So that's where that transition is going to be. And then the same thing for transitioning back into the strumming. When you're in verse 2, we'll have to muddle through somehow. And again, it's that same kind of progression that we have the E minor, the G, and then the G7, strum, strum, have yourself and going back into the strumming pattern. And then at the end of that, when we have, so have yourself a merry little Christmas now. When you get back to that G on the now, you're not going to strum on the now. You're going to go back to the picking pattern. So this is the first transition going into the bridge section. Once again in the olden days. This is the transition going into the second half of verse 2. Somehow this is the very end when you're transitioning back into the picking pattern. Have yourself a merry little Christmas now. And you might have noticed there that on that last turnaround with the have yourself a merry little Christmas, I'm just playing on the chord changes. You can do whatever you would like in this, so you could continue with the down strum on the beat. I think it just breaks it up a little bit nicer because it's this much bigger moment. So for that, you're just playing on the chord changes and then going back into the picking pattern. And then finally at the very, very end of the song, you're going to end on the G in the outro with just playing a G chord just on a down strum. If any of that didn't really quite make sense to you, take a look at the play along. That's going to just happen in just a second, and that can really show you how all the pieces fit together. With that, let's give it a play along. 1, 2, here we go. Yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. enjoyed this tutorial for Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. If there are other holiday tunes that you really love that you'd love to see made into a play along or tutorial, I don't know if we'll have time for this year, but I write those down and then I can just do them for next year. But have a wonderful day and I will see you next time. Bye.